Hey everybody, David here from Team Ultra Instinct, bringing you a Super Saiyan God Trunks deck profile with the new support from BT21 Wild Resurgence. This has been one of my favorite leaders in the game since its inception. I haven't had a lot of play with it recently because it needed a lot more support, but I feel like a lot of this stuff in the set actually kind of pushed it over. But the leader I really love. It's on this side, activate main. You can choose a black card in your hand, warp it, draw two, and then your life awakening is either at four or less, or if you have five or more Saiyans in your warp, you can draw a card, untap one, flip over, and it doesn't drop you any life. So if you awaken at seven life, it feels great. It doesn't always happen, but if you can, it's great. This side of the leader, I love being able to just swing, draw two, warp one from hand. There's a lot of warping in this deck. I try to do this deck justice and bling it out, so I got the foil leader in a nice sleeve. But I like that it has Unison protection. I was messing with different Unisons for a bit, but I'm back on Kai after the new support that dropped. The downside of this leader, I always felt, was the activate main. You had to pay one for it. And I'll actually just dive into the Z deck. For what makes this so good nowadays is actually, in my opinion, it's the Z leader. The Z leader, while it does lose blocker, unfortunately, and you have to be at 3 life, I've actually found that once I hit 3 life, I'm typically not struggling, and I choose when to take my own life rather than the opponent forcing it. Now, yeah, of course, there's going to be losing situations where they're going to get you, but I found that with this Z leader, also being a 20k leader, it's been great. So same auto, one attack, draw two, warp one. And then keep in mind that the Z Awaken does also require Unison on board because you have to Spirit Boost one. The Activate main, still Spirit Boost one, but now it does not cost you anything. It does not cost you one at all. So same thing, you put two black battle cards from your warp to your drop. You still warp a battle card, but now you gain, if you have Supreme Kai of Time opposing the Empire in play, which is the Unison that's meant for this deck, you gain 5k power and double strike, so now your leader is actually much more of a threat. It's only 2 Z energy to get this guy Z awakened out, so this card is actually insane for the deck. I absolutely love it. I have him in pre-release because a friend of mine, well, actually Jake, also from Team Ultra Instinct, forced it upon me. So I was like, all right, I'll run it just for you. I'm typically not a stamp fan of pre-release stuff, but it's all right. I'm running one Demigra on the Z deck. This is something I'm trying out. It may not make it in the permanent deck, but it's something. It works better in this deck because you play from the warp. I'm running one Super Saiyan God or Super Saiyan Son Goku. You can get a lot of stuff in the warp, so of course, why not do it as a potential finisher or aggro 2-drop. It only costs you 1 Z energy, so it's not a lot, but it gains 5k power for every 7 black battle cards in your warp, and you do warp a lot, so getting him to 25k, 30k, it's not that hard. 35 a little bit more difficult. One of the SSB Vegetas. I feel like this is a staple in a lot of Z decks. I run it just in case I need to manipulate my life and get up a little bit lower. If I'm trying to Z Awaken, obviously that is one of those plays where I can just go, all right, from 4 to 3, there we go, Z Awaken, bam. I'm running 2 of the Pan. She actually works really well in here, mostly for the Activate main, but she's a 1-drop 15k beater. Also has Bond 3 with Xeno cards, and it warps one of your opponent's battle cards. It's a limit 1, but still, it's very nice. We don't care about the auto here. We just care about the Activate main, the fact that you can pay 1 and have a body and warp something. Very powerful. I run 2 of those. Then I run 1 Boo. The Demigra might turn into another Boo. Having removal in the form of absorption is actually really nice. So this could be 2. I'm just messing with Demigra right now. Probably won't ever drop Demigra realistically, though. It's just such a mediocre Z battle. But that's the Z deck. I'm just going to leave the Z leader out because I love looking at it. But into the deck, I'm not going to go in depth on these ones. 3 supporting the Dark Empire. I feel like 3 is adequate. Then I do have a split in my super combos. I'm running 2 Goten and then 2 of the Vegetas. 2 Goten because you can do it at early life. You don't have to be at 4 life. Vegeta for 2 reasons. It's a bottom deck draw 2, so you see more cards. It's also a Union Fusion target, as most people know. That one's not a surprise, so that's why I run 2 of those. Then I run 2 Gokus as Union Fusion targets. Of course, or if I need to self-awaken once again, or punish someone for using counter skills, you still get that effect. Your leader is still a black Saiyan card, so you do get that. But, if you need to go from 4 to 3, there you go. Bam, another one drop that does it for you. And it's got deflect, so they can't really do much about it except kill it by, for example, Gohan TP or something. One Gogeta. I feel like everyone's going to have a Gogeta in their black decks if they're running any form of Xeno cards. So 1, of course, because he's limit 1. Then I have 4 of the Super Saiyan 4 Son Goku Beyond All Limits. This is probably a ratio that can be messed with, but I feel like 4 is adequate in here. There's a lot of stuff you send to the warp, so you can recycle a lot there. There's multi-purpose for this card in here. One card you could mess with in this deck as well, I don't run it, is the Dark Broly from set 18. It's a solid card. I mean, it plays from the warp, it synergizes with the deck, it's a warp target from your hand. I just personally don't run it because I feel like there's a lot better stuff you can do right now. So this Vegeta, while being a Union Fusion target, because it's a 30k, I actually would prefer if this was the newer promo one. I just don't have them, so I'm running the old promo, Feign Greeting. Still a great card, but I feel like the new one's nice because you can apply crit pressure in the same turn while also being a 30k, removing from board. So realistically, if I were to change anything in this deck, it would be making this the new promo. Then I'm running only 2 of the Goten. I'm not a big fan of this one. It's a solid card, but the reason why I'm running it is so it's a turn 1 warp target. It feeds into the warp in the early game to warp up to 3 cards from your deck. It could turn into crit pressure. It's also replayable from the warp, but I'm not a big fan of this one as much. This one's one you can mess around with, but personal preference, I only run 2. Then after that, I have 4 of the... sorry, these sleeves are a little sticky. 4 of the Gohan. There's been a lot of times where I see it on turn 1. This is my turn 1 play. Play it from the warp 3. Now I have a blocker. It's also replayable, and that is relevant in the late game. Say I didn't see a negate, and I so happen to have 3 of these in the warp, and I got nothing else to do. I'll just play 3. It doesn't happen often, but it's an option. If they get rid of them, it is what it is. But they come in clutch, being played from the warp and being a blocker. I see it impede a lot of people's play. Unless they're just going straight for the removal play right away. But big fan of it. I like it. This was a huge boost for the deck actually coming out of set 19. I did add this in right away, but I feel like it didn't do enough for the deck. But the Gohan SGR for black is actually cracked for the deck. You can warp it from your hand if you really need to. I mean, being able to use it for a Z charge and remove some things from board's great. It plays from warp, yeah, but the downside is it doesn't trigger the Unison typically because Unison checks for it being played on your own turn, not during your opponent's turn. But that's the downside with that. But I really love that you can actually play this from the warp and get that auto ability to negate an attack. Say they counter one of your negates. Oh no. Guess what? You got the auto on this for a battle card swing. You do that, and maybe you're not taking a lethal damage. I really like it for the deck. This is one that I'd consider up to 3. 2's felt good. 3's a maybe, though. And it being a Saiyan is relevant. It's also a Saiyan. Keep that in mind. So it does end up triggering the ability to awaken earlier. There's a lot of Saiyans in this deck. I run 2 of the SSG Trunks, challenging a Demon God. It's another card you can warp from your hand. Apply 20k double strike pressure because it says, if there's 10 or more black cards in your warp, which there more than likely is going to be by the time you drop this, it has double strike. It does spirit boost 1, so you want your Unison to have a little bit more markers on it. But it's a solid card. I like it as a 2 of. It's never felt bad. The only one that I actually have changed as time has went on is I have changed this Trunks to be a 4 of instead of a 3 of. I have 4 winners, of course, because I have to flex it. This it feels a lot better now. I really like this card. It's been doing a lot of work for me recently. I really like the support that I got directly. But feels up for Overwhelm, 2 swings on it, and then it pays for 2 from your warp if you have 8 or more cards in your 8 or more cards in your warp. Sorry, I had to double check the wording on that. But what feeds into that is actually this guy plays off of that, and they did make sure that it works correctly. It spirit boosts once again to Xeno Evolve, and it Xeno Evolves on a Trunks Xeno with an energy cost of 5, so this Trunks, and it is confirmed that it does work. The cost for Xeno Evolve is just to choose that card, so it'll choose the Trunks. Trunks does get removed from the game instead of being warped, but that doesn't stop the Xeno Evolve from happening. All that it checks for is it being chosen. So I run 3 in the deck, it being a 30k, 8 drop, triple strike with barrier that also, when it attacks, removes up to one of your opponent's battle cards. Ignoring barrier is huge for the deck. It's a 1 drop. I mean, it's a 3 energy commitment at the end of the day, but it's still, total of 5 damage between 2 cards. Really strong. I like that it has barrier, so it's got some form of protection. This support was actually great for the deck. I wouldn't run more than 3. I've considered dropping to 2, but I'm still testing it. I haven't had a whole lot of play with this deck yet, but I absolutely love the art on the card. One of the cards that I think I'm pretty dead set on keeping at 4, the new Supreme Kai of Time. It allows you to potentially play turn 1 your Unison. I mean, if you have the setup perfectly like that, then that's great. It doesn't always happen, but you can choose this from your hand, turn 1, warp it, draw 2, and then if you happen to have the Unison in your hand, pay 1, bottom deck a card from your hand, play your Unison with 2 markers, and then your Unison can start doing what it does. You can take up to 2 life with this card, so I do like that it's also potential self-awakening through that form. I'm not going to change this off of 4 currently. I feel like that's a perfect number. Consistency purposes, it felt great for me. I believe my deck's a 54 card deck. You do burn through it a lot, so 54 is fine. I run 4 of this Unison. It's relevant now with the Z Leader and that Supreme Kai Time 1 drop. So 4 of this. I was on Bardock for a bit, but I switched back to this. This is just so much better now with the new support. And I absolutely love that I can run this and feel good about it again. It just didn't feel great before with it. 2 of the Supreme Kai of Time negates. This one should be pretty self-explanatory. Really good negate. Can either remove something to stop it from attacking or stop a dual attacker for the turn. Then I run 3 of the Pan Floodgates. This is one I'm either debating on dropping to 2 or keeping at 3. It comes in clutch for me a lot. It doesn't negate the attack, I guess, but it's a counter attack still. It's a 1 drop in this deck, so every time they want to swing with a battle card, they have to discard 2. It feeds into your warping because the cost is you have to warp a card from your hand when it gets played. But I really like it. I really like it at 3, but this is one that could maybe go down to 2. That's all user preference. Then another card we got out of set 19 was the Cumber. I actually like it as a 2 of in this deck. You're not going to get it a whole lot. But when you get it off, it feels great. Typically what I want to do is I want to go for the double strike dual attack. And it being able to replace itself when it's played is great. And I'll say remove. It stops guys on their side of the field from attacking at least for a turn because it gives them Servant. And if they find a way to restand those, well, then that sucks. But I like it at 2. Very solid card, very aggressive. Then I run 3 of the Cumber rare from set 19 or set 20, my bad. Those are set 20, not 19, set 20. This card's a very nice 1 drop aggressive play. I don't get to do it a whole lot in this deck, but it's also sand, so it's relevant for that keyword. I like it in the deck. I think I'm going to keep it at 3. It's felt good. I like that it's a 1 energy, just aggressive play. It's been useful. I like it. I'm going to keep it at that number. The only downfall is if it gets hit by like Charismatic Villain. I mean, that's for any card in the deck, of course, but it is what it is. Secret rare, of course, it's Evil Saiyan because this deck warps a lot. So, of course, I accidentally warp it. Well, I still can play my secret rare. I activate my leader on the unawakened side. Oh, I got the secret rare in my hand. I guess I can warp it, draw 2. Like, if you got nothing else, that's an option, right? I like that it synergizes super well with this deck. I don't think you play anything over this any day of the week. This secret rare is pretty cracked in this deck. It's won me a lot of games, and I absolutely love it in here. I wouldn't change it to anything else. The only thing I'd even maybe consider is like cooler, but this is just so good in this deck. Then my 1 of tech, I don't know a lot of people that actually run this card. And maybe there's a lot of people that do, and I just haven't seen it. But I like it because it's a potential, it's a warp target, or I can use it as a turn 1 play if I really need to. It doesn't always happen, but I've done it in a rare occasion. But what I love is the Activate Battle. It's a limit 1, burst 1. If your leader card is a Black Trunks only card, or Trunks Xeno only card, which it is, of course, and you place this card at the bottom of your deck from your warp, choose one of your leader cards or Unison cards, and it gets 5k power for the battle. So essentially, it's just a free combo from the warp. And I could either warp it from hand and do that. I could play it. It gets warped from deck. I really like it as a 1 of. I wouldn't change it. I'm a big fan of that. But that's the main deck right there. Sideboard's still work in progress, but I'll show it off. Sideboard's pretty straightforward, I think, for now, until I get a little bit more play with it, and kind of see what the meta's shaping up to. Yeah, I'll fix that later. But Sideboard, this card's coming out for sure. I know I'm not going to keep this. This is going to be Super Kamehameha, so keep that in mind. But I have 2 Time Bullet right now. That'll be Super Kamehamehas. Just for counterplays on Floodgates, typically. Then I have 2 Dark Power Black Mass Sand. This is a great card for the sideboard. I'm just debating on if I want to keep it or not. I know it has relevant matchups. I know it's always going to be a good card. It's just, if the meta doesn't call for it, I'll probably swap it out. But right now it's at 2. I'm still testing it. It could become 3, could become 0. This is one of those flex sideboard cards. I'm not too sure on it yet. Then I have 2 Oceanus in my sideboard. If I'm facing an aggressive deck, this is going to come in. I have a lot of stuff that's actually for aggro matchups in this sideboard. This comes in, kind of slows them down a bit. It's recyclable off the 6-drop Goku, so realistically you're playing up to 6 copies of this card in your deck. You're really never going to play it 6 times. But I have done it to someone 4 times before, with only the 2 copies coming in from side, so it's really funny. But 2 has felt good for me. I don't know how a lot of people feel about this card in the sideboard, but I'm a fan of it in the side. It's helped me out. Then I run 2 Ultimate minus Energy Powerball. This is for something like Rush Attack Vegeta, for example. They got to swing with Rush Attack. You hit them with the Ultimate minus. Kill the Rush Attack before it even gets any sort of power buff, because obviously it didn't activate main. If it activated main before that, that's unfortunate. Then this card's a little bit dead, but at least it's multi-purpose. You get to activate battle, which is to gain 15k power for the battle. But I really like that it can stop a lot of stuff dead in its tracks, like right away, because it warps a battle card with 15k power or less. Very solid card. This is one of those cards that I'm debating on taking out. It's a one of. It's probably not worth it in here as a one of. But it gets around barrier as well. So if I'm facing something that has large barrier, you know, I could drop this and then just draw a card, warp one of their battle cards. I like it as a one of. That's another one that could change. I like the Mass Sand Brainwash No More. It's a nice way to tech in against an opponent where you know they have multiple strike abilities, so you pay 1, crit your life, you no longer take damage for the battle. So it kind of staves that a bit. I like it as a one-of in the side, but that's another flex spot for people. Because I have to respect it, I run 3 Deborah in my sideboard, because every time I don't run 3 Deborah, I always face it, and then I end up losing to Hand Hate. So 3 Deborah on the side. And then, of course, I have 2 Petrification. This card stays in the sideboard no matter what. This card's fantastic. 1 I might up to 3 in my sideboard, but it's felt good at 2 right now. The deck draws enough to where you're going to see your cards typically. I haven't struggled seeing any sideboard cards playing this deck since it came out. Big fan of this, though. I'm keeping it a 2 of. But I'm looking to, you know, get more games with this guy. I absolutely love this deck. The only other deck I'm on right now, primarily from the new set and with new support, is the new Gohan deck. But this being one of my favorite leaders, I have to respect it, so of course I'm going to play it more. So if my list changes further down the line, I'll probably do a quick update video on it. And only if it's massive changes. If it's minor changes, I'm not going to do it. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video today, and for those of you Black Deck fans out there, I hope you guys did enjoy this as well. Super Saiyan God Trunks, one of my favorite black leaders. Gonna keep playing him until I feel like he just no longer is a good leader. Absolutely love this form. Hope you guys did enjoy, and you have a great day.